we have a big video alert, folks. Crsr Gaming, Crsr Stock. We are going to talk about this one here today in this video. I have seen a lot of people wanting me to talk about this stock for quite a while. I haven't talked about it recently. There's been rumors that I don't even hold any shares of the stock anymore. We're going to get into that in this video. I'm going to show you if I do hold shares in the stock and exactly how many I hold. There's been rumors that I don't like this company anymore, or I don't think they're going to do good. So we're going to get into everything in this video in regards to Crsr Gaming. I'm going to take you through not only what I own in the stock, if I'm interested in buying the stock, if I'm interested in buying options on the stock, and why. We're going to talk about the numbers, the fundamentals, what's going on with the business. I'm going to take you through Google Trends. I'm going to take you through what I saw this holiday season, and a lot dang more in regards to Crsr Gaming. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this. I know a lot of folks have been wanting me to do a dedicated Crsr video, so this is that video for you guys here today. And hey, it's a weekend video, so you know I had to have a little bit of time on my hands for this one here today. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Make sure you hit that notification bell to be notified every time I drop a video, or whenever the heck YouTube wants to notify you, all right? Alrighty guys, so in regards to Crsr Gaming, CRSR, it's been trading around $20 recently. Interesting trading action on Friday. Look at the stock price, up 2.2%. Now keep this in mind. The Russell was down 1.2%. Right? NASDAQ was down, Dow was down, S&P 500 was down. Just very interesting that Crsr, there was no news in regards to Crsr, just had a really good day despite all the markets being rough. And you would think usually if the Russell's down 1.2%, Crsr is going to be down 2% or down 3%, something like that, and then it pulls out a good day. Keep in mind, Crsr is one of the most shorted stocks in the entire stock market. What does this mean? Well, that means a lot of people don't like this stock. A lot of people think this stock's going to go down, right? When you're one of the most shorted stocks, that's a belief, right? And so doesn't mean it's going to happen, because a lot of times we see in these situations where shorts go max short at the worst time possible. Next thing you know, the company goes from bad news to decent news, from decent news to good news, and the next thing you know, the stock goes flying up and a massive short squeeze happens. Doesn't mean that's going to happen in Crsr Gaming, but I think it's just important to remember there, okay? Market cap on this company is under $2 billion right now. PE on the stock is around 17. Obviously, in terms of its stock price, it's had a horrible, horrible past year. I mean, it doesn't get much worse than that. I mean, it does actually get much worse than that, because if you've seen some of these stocks over the past year, woo-wee, okay? In regards to Crsr, very important, not a lot of people realize this. Some people think, well, it's just Crsr, right? That's it. No, actually they own other businesses as well. They also own Elgato, which is a streaming player. And if you go to your local Best Buy, you're going to see a dedicated section actually to Elgato, which sells lighting. So like these lights I have behind me here, those lights right there, those are Elgato lights, okay? That are basically, for folks like myself that film videos, like it's awesome. Like the lighting setup, they also have their own cameras and many other things, microphones, stuff like that, so your voice sounds better. So Elgato's a huge player in the streaming space. So think about YouTube, think about Twitch, think about even people that might record a lot of videos for business or do a lot of Zoom meetings that might want some higher end stuff, right? Even those folks will use products like Elgato. So they're a major player in that market. I would say their main competitor is probably Logitech in that particular space. They also own Origin, which is essentially a company that builds custom PCs for you. The whole dealio, very expensive usually. Scuf is a very interesting brand. So this is a controller product brand. So they'll make custom controllers for PS5, for the new Xbox, things like that. Okay, and so very important to remember when it comes to Crsr, it's not just the Crsr products you're buying, the company, you're buying all these other brands they own as well, which also have great trajectories and growth stories as well, okay? In regards to me owning Crsr Gaming, okay, here's what I have in this stock, here's what I'm looking at. In this particular account, I have it in two accounts, Crsr Gaming. In this account, I have 7,777 shares of Crsr Gaming in this particular account, getting absolutely decimated, down about 35%, down about 86,000. It is, I believe, my worst stock out there. It's just been awful in terms of dollar amount down. So that's that particular account there. And then this particular account here, I have 10,000 shares in that one getting devastated on as well, down $65,000 in there, okay? So all total, I have 17,777 shares of Crsr Gaming, okay? Now, here's, let's talk about the holiday season before we get into the numbers, okay? So I was paying attention to a lot this holiday season. Crsr, if you're thinking about the most important season for Crsr, it's going to be the Christmas season, right? The holiday shopping season. And I definitely saw some stuff that was a little worrisome that I think we got to pay attention to here with CRSR, okay? So, and when I say worrisome, that doesn't mean it's like devastating news, like they're done or something like that. Not like that at all. But in terms of if you're hoping for some crazy numbers, I would say think again, okay? So in regards to Corsair Gaming, I did Google Trends on this one for the past 12 months, and I kept an eye on this, and we saw a little tick up, in the Christmas time, but honestly, it wasn't very much, and it's nowhere even remotely close to where things were at last holiday season and where things were at last January, okay? So you saw a little tick up, but don't expect Corsair to have some blockbuster numbers or something like that. It's just not that moment in gaming right now. And if you look at gaming keyboard, gaming mouse, things like that, you're going to see a very similar Google Trends basically over the past year. Now, if we look over the past 5 years, for their search trend Corsair, we also see this is lower than where it was at in previous kind of Christmas time frames. So it's very, very important. So one, don't expect numbers even remotely close to where we were at basically throughout 2020 and into the first part of 2021. We're down massively from there. I kind of did red line, yellow line, green line here, kind of like a light, right? So if you're above the green line, that's great. You're doing tremendous. If you're in the, you're above the yellow line, you're doing decent, right? If you're below the red line, you're doing really bad. And obviously, in Corsair's numbers, we saw they're doing pretty bad. And, that was Google Trends there, right? And so a lot of times, I don't want to say it's a perfect thing to look at in terms of Google Trends, in terms of interest, but when you're talking about something that's bought heavily online, like a Corsair is, right? If you're looking up, I don't know, Coca-Cola, it doesn't matter. The Google Trends for Coca-Cola just doesn't matter, right? That's not like the way it goes for those particular products, but for something like Corsair that people buy heavily online, that they're searching for, very, very important to look at Google Trends. You're going to get a pretty good idea of that, okay? So that's first part there. I also did a lot of walks around Best Buy stores here in Vegas in trying to see product sell-through and whatnot. Corsair, it looked at best decent in terms of sell-through. Now that wasn't just for Corsair. That was for anything in the gaming space. Everything was pretty maxed out in terms of all their competitors and whatnot. It just wasn't the type of holiday season that was a hot one for gaming components, I guess you can say, okay? And so that's just the truth there. Now, Elgato, I got to say, the Elgato section, which, like I said, Best Buy has a very nice section for Elgato now. Nice section. For that, it actually seemed like pretty good sell-through. Now, keep in mind, they keep a lot less Elgato products usually in the stores than they do something like Corsair. But I got to say, if there's something I'm even more bullish on in the short term, it'd actually be the Elgato brand in the section they have in the Best Buy stores. And like I said, I saw a lot of products moving where I'd be like, oh, they had 5 products there before, now there's 1 product, or 2 products, or now there's an out there, okay? So, yeah, that's something to keep in mind. So, nonetheless, don't expect some sort of great blow the top off numbers in the Christmas quarter. Just flat out. Do not expect that at all, okay? So, in terms of what analysts expect for this quarter, the good news is there's no crazy big expectations for this company for this past quarter. There's only 13.2% revenue decline expected, right? So if you're expecting revenue to be down 13.2%, that's a pretty dang low expectations, right? Double digits down. And so this is something to keep in mind. The expectations going into this quarter are not good. They're not high. There's not like everybody's like, oh my gosh, you're going to report such an amazing quarter. No, it's just not like that, okay? Everybody's expecting a bad quarter. That's why analysts on average have this, revenue going down 13% plus, all right? Now, as far as next quarter, I will say I'm a little bit worried about the March quarter numbers. Analysts have the company only being down revenue 8.9%. I'm a little worried about that. And the reason being, you look at Google Trends, where they were at in January of last year, even into the beginning part of February, extremely high. There was still a ton of demand for Corsair. And so I'm a little worried, could they bring down numbers for next quarter and that hit the stock? That's kind of one of the few things I'm worried about in this stock is next quarter, actually, that March quarter. Because literally, you look at the Google Trends, we looked at it, right? And it's just flat out, the beginning of last year, January into February, Google Trends was super high. We're not going to see that sort of interest this year or even remotely close to that, okay? Now, something important to remember is last year, they did have some supply chain issues, and it looks like a lot of that has been fixed based upon listening to last earnings call, which you can listen to on the Hungry Bowl app. If you haven't downloaded that yet, that's my app where you can listen to earnings calls with companies. If you listen to the latest earnings call from Corsair Gaming, Andy Paul, the CEO of this company, basically said they're not having much supply chain issues at all now, okay? And I expect that to be the story throughout 22. And so that's where things can get a little complicated here because it's if supply chains were messed up, and they couldn't get the product fill last year, maybe that hurt last year's number. So even though Google Trends was amazing and sales could have been amazing, they could have had so many supply chain issues that it really hurt, right? So yeah, but I am still a little worried about these numbers, and if there's something I'm worried about, it's those numbers there, okay? Now, in terms of the 22 numbers in general, this is complicated, okay? So analysts have them basically having revenue go up 6.5%. Why this is so complicated is, one is, how down our number is going to be in the first quarter, right? Second thing is, we just talked about supply chains were very messed up last year. They're likely not messed up this year, okay? So that adds some complexity where it's like, okay, how much, now that supply chains are fixed and the product's going to be available, how much product sell-through do we see, better than, let's say, last year? If you didn't have let's say there was crazy demand last year in January, but there was no product to buy, okay, what's the purpose, right? If you're going to Crsr, you're searching or whatever, but you couldn't actually buy the product, okay, well, then Crsr couldn't see the dollars, versus now if somebody searches it, right, and they can actually buy it because the product's actually available. So this is where things get very, very complicated. Things also get very, very complicated is, what's the wild card for Crsr Gaming? What's the wild card for this company? Okay, I'll tell you what the wild card is. One big game comes out. One big game comes out of nowhere, and everybody's buying that game left and right, and the next thing you know, what happens? Well, in that sort of scenario, next thing you know, Crsr is selling product like it's nobody's business, right? And so this is where you get in this really complicated situation where it's like, man, if just one big game came out during the course of this year, that's a game changer overnight for a company like Crsr Gaming, right? Obviously, if GPU, pricing slows down, because obviously, GPUs have been crazy. CPUs, GPUs, if that slows down, that could also help Crsr. Andy Paul on the conference call shouted that out as well. So essentially, the numbers for 22 are so complicated because you're looking at likely a weak first half for Crsr, but strength throughout the back half of the year. And so then it's like, okay, where do we end up with the numbers there? And so that's where numbers get really, really complicated for Crsr CRSR, okay? Now, something I love for this company is analysts on average are expecting the company to have EPS go up in a nice way. I also expect the company to have their EPS go up in 2022. I don't really have a specific number. I'm thinking somewhere in the $1.50 to maybe $1.65 range for this company in 22. So that's obviously good. When it comes to Crsr, it's not as much about revenue growth for this company. It's more of a story about EPS growth. The revenue growth story was really a 2020, narrative around this company. Now it's really about making sure we're as profitable as possible when it comes to this company, making sure we have great profits quarter in and quarter out, and the business can pay down any debts, or if they want to ever pay dividends, do share buybacks, buy out other brands, because we know Crsr loves to buy out other brands, right? They can make moves like that. So I'm very thrilled with kind of what's expected from the EPS side. As far as current year, $1.65. Keep in mind, last year was $1.60, so that's a number down there. And also keep this in mind, if they do a $1.59 of EPS in 22, right? That still wouldn't even be the number they did in 2020, right? So it's not like this is some crazy number that's impossible to, come in with in line, especially with supply chains. And I think inflation is going to definitely slow down in a massive way throughout 22. Okay, so nonetheless, when it comes to the numbers for Crsr Gaming, revenue growth, EPS growth, I think this is arguably my most complicated stock I hold, or definitely up there with the most complicated in terms of trying to project exactly what they're going to do. I can't think of another stock I hold that's a multi-$100,000 or, let's call it a multi-six-figure position or a seven-figure position that I hold that I can't project very well. There's one I have a lot of trouble with. Tattoo Chef, I don't have a lot of trouble with that one. Honest, I don't have a lot of trouble with that one. Walgreens, I don't have a lot of trouble with that one. Any of my other big positions that I have, like I said, major six-figure, seven-figure positions, a Planet, any of those, I don't have trouble projecting numbers, but with Crsr, it's complicated. It's really, really complicated, okay? And so it's going to be a kind of a crazy year for 22. Like I said, I think it's kind of a light year at the beginning, and then things strengthen as the comps get easier throughout the year, okay? Now, something I love in regards to Crsr Gaming is the valuation of this stock is extremely compelling. The forward P on the stock is 13. So when you look at it from that standpoint, when it comes to Crsr Gaming, this isn't an expensive stock. This isn't some stock that it's like, got some crazy P where you're like, oh man, if they have a disappointing year, oh my gosh, the stock's devastated. It's not that type of stock at all. When you're trading at a 13, which is much below where the company ever trades at, you're trading pretty darn cheap. And so for that reason, all it takes for a company like Corsair Gaming to get the stock moving in the right direction is for this to go from bad news to decent news. Like literally, if this just goes from a bad news story to just a decent news story, it's a game changer for Corsair Gaming. Never mind, there's always the Eagle Tree Fund, right? That's always the other thing that's out there when it comes to Corsair Gaming. Does Eagle Tree Fund, put any selling pressure on this? Do they not? If they don't, obviously it's a good thing for the stock. If they put a bunch of selling pressure, that makes it tough, right? But when it comes to Corsair Gaming, if this story just goes from bad to decent, we're going to likely see the stock price goes up. And if it goes from decent to good, not even to great, just to good, throughout the back half of 22 going into 23, and the prospects are looking very healthy going into 23, it's going to likely be a stock that rises pretty darn rapidly, right? And so, yeah, I love the fact that this is a very, very cheap PE story on this company, okay? Now, as far as my price target for Corsair Gaming for January 2023, I hate doing short-term price targets, which, 1 year for me is a very short-term number, but if I had to do it, I'm putting $31 on this stock. I think, when I look at Corsair Gaming CRSR, I think this is one of those companies that is, like I said, the story's kind of down and out. I worry a little bit about this first 3 months for Corsair Gaming, but after that, I'm not very scared for the numbers after 3 months from now, after that March quarter's over, essentially. Then I'm not really scared with this one anymore. So I'll put a $31 price target on it. As far as my interest, am I interested in buying this stock in 2022? Not as interested in buying the stock. Actually, what I'm interested in buying when it comes to Corsair Gaming CRSR is actually call options in the stock January 2024, which gives me 2 years to play with. And looking at strikes anywhere from $20, $25, somewhere around there for this stock, maybe even, like let's say 15-ish type price range for 2024 Jans. That's something I'm actually interested in. I got 17,777 shares of the stock, so it's not like I necessarily need to buy a ton more shares. I wouldn't mind buying it, especially if the stock went under 20. But I'm actually more interested in the 2024 calls. I think there's just more risk reward that's in my advantage there. I think it's a very low probability if the stock is under $20 in January 2024. I think there's a very high probability that the stock's anywhere from, $35 to $60 if things go really well come January 2024. And so for that reason, I'm actually, like I said, more interested in those call options. So, alrighty guys, so that was the Big Beast video, Corsair Gaming. Hope you enjoyed this. Make sure you download the Hungry Bowl in your iOS and Android store now. And it's about to be earnings season, guys. So with the Hungry Bowl, it's not just about keeping up with the markets, your stocks, and the news. Earnings calls are big, okay? And we're about to go into earnings season starting in about a week, and then it's going to run for the next 4 weeks after that. And so have the Hungry Bowl ready to rock and roll because there's a whole lot of earnings coming, and you got to listen to those babies. Much love, and have a great day.